Do not have to use E-Verify. They choose to because sometimes they get additional benefits. Welcome back to Visa Vibes, your go-to podcast for navigating the twists and turns of U.S. immigration law. I'm Emily Newman, managing partner of Reddy Newman Brown PC.
And I'm Stephen Brown. I'm also a partner at Reddy Newman Brown PC, and we're in our new studio, so testing it out. If you hear any issues, let us know. And sometimes the vibes are so good. Emily and I matched without any planning. We were same polo, dark jeans. Didn't talk to each other. Just ready to go for today's podcast. Kind of an interesting topic today, Emily. Rare bipartisan efforts in Congress on immigration, good and bad. I would say it's a give and take with immigration with the Dignity Act of 2025.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot going on nationwide in immigration right now. And so I think the consensus with bringing this bill now was let's strike while the iron is hot, while people are talking about
Yeah.
immigration. Let's try to come up with some fixes instead of just enforcement, enforcement, enforcement. So this was introduced by Representative Maria Salazar, who's a Republican from Florida, and Veronica Escobar, who's a Democrat from Texas. So it is really the first comprehensive reform bill we've had since the old Gang of Eight bill and comprehensive immigration reform. I feel like that was 2008 or 2013, if memory serves. And it is comprehensive because it deals with enforcement, green card backlog, student visa, all over the board.
Yeah, and it does a lot of good things, and as with anything bipartisan, there's give and take, and I think there's a lot of co-sponsors to it, but we can't get too excited yet. Bill is in its infancy. It was introduced July 15th, so it's not even been a month. It's got a long way to go to become a law. But it's still worth digging into because, again, we have kind of that first bipartisan immigration for this congressional session. And I think it's important for our listeners, whether they're high skilled immigrants, employers, or whatever, to get out and advocate if this is something they want to talk about.
Yeah, so what's in the Dignity Act? We'll start with kind of the more broad strokes. It pairs tougher enforcement, which I think that should, vibe with Republicans. Maybe not so much with Democrats, but we have to deal with the reality of the situation. So it's got mandatory e-verify programs, increased penalties, but it pairs that with actual immigration benefits, like clearing some of these backlogs, creating new visa pathways for the undocumented population, so we don't just keep kicking the can down the road, and expanding protections for families.
Yeah, and like you said, Emily, unlike some past bills that are only one-sided, that we're going to go fully on with enforcement or we're going to go to a quote unquote amnesty type bill, this is that middle of the road. We're going to do some common sense enforcement provisions that we can give and at the same time we're going to talk about some benefits that can happen, especially for the backlog community. The 2023 version, this is kind of a redo, right? So the 2023 version of this bill ended up with 38 bipartisan co-sponsors. This new version currently has 21, and it's a good mix of both sides of the political aisle. What are the odds of this being passed? I don't know, but it's good to see attempt and bipartisan dialogue, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I feel like with comprehensive bills, the more people that you upset with the bill, the more compromise it actually is.
Oh, I remember what was it, a year ago, there was something that was done kind of towards the end of the congressional session, and both sides are kind of like, this sucks. And we're like, that's how it's a good negotiated
Right.
bill. When both sides have parts of it that they don't like, and then parts of it they're like, this is great, we need to take this. So that kind of, with immigration, especially with it being such a hot topic, I think it is going to be that, bipartisan consensus on both sides where we're going to give something we might not like, but it's going to give us something we do like.
Yeah. All right, so first part of the bill deals with E-Verify and compliance. So E-Verify is obviously a big one for employers. It is not currently mandatory. There are certain employers that it's mandatory for, depending on the state, some contractors that with the state and federal government, but overall, most employers do not have to use E-Verify. They choose to because sometimes they get additional benefits like the safe harbor provision if they're using it, as well as the ability to hire STEM OPT employees. But under the Dignity Act, all employers would be required to use this electronic verification system, but it would be a new system called EVES. Employment Eligibility Verification System. That basically the goal is to confirm that the person you're hiring is authorized to work.
Yeah, and so if this bill were to become a law, the way it's written right now is it's going to have a phased in approach to using EVES. And big companies with 10,000 plus employees, they're going to have to start using EVES within 6 months. Smaller businesses, especially those with less than 20 employees, they're going to have a 2 year period. I mean, look, you got, especially when you have a small business, they might not have an HR person. And so getting brought up to speed on how to use it. And so that's, kind of fair. We want to move to this system, but we're not going to say you have to do it today.
Yeah, and there's also carve outs for agricultural employers and, as you mentioned, really small businesses that are going to need more time because they don't have that administrative staff. Um, it still would be a major shift in how things are currently. Totally replacing the I-9 form would seem to be because we would not be needing that anymore. And that's been around since 1997, IRA. So we're trying something new, maybe, if it actually goes through.
Yeah, and it's going to come with new teeth, according to this bill that's out there. It'll have new civil and criminal penalties for hiring workers that are unauthorized. Because again, you should have run them through EVES to make sure they have that valid work authorization, or submitting false information to game the system. And so that's something that I think the Republican side has been big on, is making sure we're identifying and we're using these processes. But that said, this enforcement is going to come with a trade-off of pro-immigration relief that has been talked about for decades. And we've done podcasts where we're like, hey, these issues that we're talking about have been here for years. So it's going to have that trade-off if this becomes a law.
Yeah, so one of the pro-immigration sides here is it incorporates the American Families United Act and kind of promotes family unity. So the American Family United Act basically was meant to help U.S. citizens who have spouses or children who are facing deportation. So we have a large population of people in the United States who are undocumented, but who are married to a U.S. citizen or have a U.S. citizen parent. And there are very few options for a lot of these people, depending on how they came into the country, when they came into the country. You know, even if they're trying to legalize themselves and get in line, as the common phrase is, a lot of times they're not able to unless they qualify for a waiver, or they have to go outside the country and wait for 10 years. And who's going to do that? So it kind of created this, what people refer to as a caging effect. When they created the 3 and 10 year bar that's triggered when you leave, caused by unlawful presence, people won't leave because they don't want to trigger the bar. And so no one is taking advantage of using these waiver provisions. So now they're trying to provide new routes that would make this more accessible to more people to eliminate separating families.
Another one of the interesting family provisions here that I thought was actually pretty good ingenuity here is this family purpose visa. This would be a 90-day visa for individuals outside the country to come in for weddings, funerals, family reunions, family functions, whatever it might be, especially when they have U.S. citizen relatives here in the U.S. Oftentimes, I'm sure our listeners like, just get a B visa, right? That B visa gets denied because they can't show adequate ties to their home country. I mean, their whole family are U.S. citizens except for them, or the whatever it might be. And so this would give a separate visa specifically for this, and it would help with that immigrant intent issue that we see. I mean, how many times have you and I seen 214B denials that contact us, and it's sorry, you've got a brother in the U.S. and you can't come to his wedding.
Yeah, so next up are dealing with the green card backlogs. We've had various bills over the years, particularly the Fairness for High Skilled Immigrants, EAGLE Act. And so this bill tries to deal with the backlog by setting a goal to eliminate both family and employment-based green card backlogs by 2035, so over the next 10 years.
Yeah, and there's a couple of ways that the bill proposes to do that and get rid of that backlog. The first one is for those that are stuck in a backlog for 10 years or more, they can pay their way out of it, if you will. It will be the bill as it's currently written. They can pay a $20,000 premium fee, if you will, to secure a green card and become immediately available and get that current. That is a lot of money, Emily. But I know talking with a lot of clients throughout the years, they that's something they would consider.
Absolutely. The other part of this bill is it does increase the per country cap, which is what Fairness for High Skilled Immigrants EAGLE Act tried to do, from 7% to 15%. Now, of course, I think a lot of us would like to see the elimination of this per country limit, especially in the employment based categories. Why is your country of birth relevant at all to your ability to do a particular job and contribute to the United States? But progress, not
Yeah.
perfection, right? So that would be very helpful for people from India, people from China who are generally harmed by the 7% per country cap.
This this bill, Emily, it's a niche little group here that it also seeks to protect with the documented dreamers. Now we hear on the news all the time the DACA kids, and they've got a tremendous plight. I'm not, lowering that, but the documented dreamers are really victims of a system that has not been modernized, right? They came in lawfully on an H4 or an L2 or whatever it might be. And because of where their parents were born, they are stuck in a backlog that they might age out of. And this is this bill has provisions to protect those documented dreamers. And they'd be eligible for permanent residency after 10 years of lawful presence. And so that's a nice step forward. I know that there's Improve the Dream out there has been big advocates for something like this. A lot of these kids came over when they were super young. Primary life that they know is America, yet they might age out from a system that just kind of fails them.
All right. Also, some fixes for student visas, employment visas. So, particularly for F1 students, as of now, these are non-immigrant intent visas, meaning you have to be intending to only come temporarily to study and plan to go back to your home country at the end. But this bill would change the F1 to make it a dual intent visa, just like an H or an L visa. So you don't have to prove your intent to return to your home country if you wanted to remain in the US and contribute the skills that you've gained here instead of going back home and competing against us. This would allow that. It also creates, this is really interesting, a presumption of O1 eligibility if you get a PhD from a US university in STEM or medical field.
That's kind of neat because right now you've got to show that laundry list of things, even if you go and, get a medical degree from John Hopkins.
Now, I would be a little concerned that not all PhD programs
Of
are created
course,
equally.
of
We've
course.
seen some pay to play type schools that once they were running out of people to finish their master's degree, their second or third master's, now all of a sudden they're offering PhDs,
Yes.
software development or something crazy. So I don't know if all PhDs
But
are going to be.
But that's the presumption part of it. It's not a guarantee you're qualified for an O1. It just, okay, kind of, we're going to think you are. Now, if maybe you went to Stephen Brown University that I just started last week and am offering PhDs, maybe that presumption's going to be against you. You were just working the whole time, not really going to class. But I think you look at people who attend these state schools, University of Texas, Texas A&M, University of Houston, the Ivy Leagues, whatever. like, wouldn't we? Those are good, solid schools. You would want to keep those PhD and medical graduates here.
All right, another huge one would be to stop counting dependents
Wow.
towards the green card numbers. Now, with employment-based green cards, there's 140,000 available every year. They do not go to all 140,000 workers. That number is divided up between the worker, their spouse, if they're married, and their kids, if they have kids. So probably over half to two-thirds
Mhm.
of that 140,000 green cards are given to dependents, not the workers who've actually been sponsored. So this would change that, which would almost double the
Maybe
number of green
triple.
cards,
Yeah.
triple what's actually available, which would be huge. And then we would establish an immigration agency coordinator to improve efficiency between USCIS, Department of Labor, and Department of State. Interesting idea there. It does make sense because they are three completely separate agencies that have to coordinate for lots of different parts. We have DOL handling perm, labor certification, handling labor condition applications, LCAs. We have USCIS adjudicating petitions and benefits applications, and then Department of State's issuing the visas. They really don't coordinate with each other a whole lot, so maybe that's a good thing.
No, and a good example of that. I mean, Department of Labor has rules on when an H-1B amendment LCA is needed. USCIS has rules of when it's needed, and then Department of State says we're going to do our own thing and not follow either of y'all's guidance. So if there's kind of some continuity there on that, and I think if I remember right, there's also provisions in here that might fix some of the concerns with OPT as well. You know, the tax issues that people always bring up as part of it. So for the most part, these are smart provisions. These are kind of modernizing our system, not systemic changes. We're not completely overhauling. We're making little tweaks that modernize and update what we have already. And so, if we're training international students here and they're getting PhDs, like, wouldn't we want them to stay here and work with us? Instead of with a foreign country. So good on the two representatives and the co-sponsors for trying to push this forward.
All right. Now, we mentioned earlier that this is not the first time the Dignity Act has been introduced. There's actually a 2023 version. And so we wanted to talk a little bit about what's different between the two versions, because in just 2 years, like immigration has obviously changed a lot, and the American public's feelings about immigration, I think, have been changing as well. So both the 2023 version and the 2025 version are divided into three main sections. We have the Border Security for America Act, which is border infrastructure funding, the E-Verify mandate, criminalizing, people that are not in compliance, asylum reforms, those kind of things. Now, how will the budget numbers, if we're talking about border infrastructure funding, how is that going to be changed when we just passed our one big beautiful bill that gives ICE billions of dollars already? Are we really going to pass another bill that adds even more? Hopefully not. It also includes the Dignity in American Promise. So that was in both of the bills. It had the DREAM Act provisions, the TPS adjustments, temporary protected status, dignity program, documented dreamers, all of that. And then the American Prosperity and Competitiveness portion of it dealt with employment visas, student visas, reforms, and family pathways.
Yeah, and I know you mentioned about the budget. I had met with staffers from Congresswoman Escobar's office, and if I remember right, the 2023 version had a positive CBO score, so meaning it wouldn't add to the deficit. You know, a lot of this is designed to be funded through the penalties, if you will, to that are included in here. So hopefully, we can make that work with our one big beautiful bill that has lots of finances towards immigration. Well, let's start with the similarities and differences on the border enforcement. Both versions kind of start there, right? That they both include border security enforcements, the infrastructure, the technology, the e-verify requirements, and the penalties. Again, there is a lot of continuity between both sides of we understand the need for a secure border. You know, but we also want to not stop everything in the name of security. The 2025 version is going to add these humanitarian campuses for asylum seekers and streamlining asylum decisions within 60 days by asylum officers on site rather than year-long master calendars that are, some are 2030 dates already.
All right, now the dignity and promise portion of it, the 2023 Act established the dignity program that basically would have provided deferred action for 7 years with employment authorization, advanced parole. If people went through a background check, paid back taxes, and all of that sort of thing. And it provided a pathway to legal status for Dreamers as well as TPS. But in 2025's version, it keeps that dignity program structure, but removes the Promise Act for TPS recipients and instead requires a $7,000 restitution fee to be paid. And people who are going through this process to legalize themselves have no access to federal benefits, and it only provides a temporary legal status, not citizenship or a green card.
On the employment and student visa side, the 2023 version included reform components, but there was no specifics on CAPS and the OPT side of things with F1. It's kind of generic reforms. 2025 version gets a lot more specific. We have this opportunity for a premium fee to get out of the green card backlog after 10 years with the goal to eliminate the backlog by 2035. It also has the reforms for the F1 visa, the dual intent policy, so they can pursue green cards and remain in the United States without risking status. But again, give and take, right? Is the elimination on the FICA tax exemption for OPT wages. Right now, OPT employers don't have to pay the Social Security and Medicare taxes. And that's one of the biggest gripes about the OPT program from folks who don't like it, is that side of it. And that would get rid of that. And okay, I mean, give and take here.
All right, so here's the part we really want you to hear. This bill is not going to move forward without your voice. Immigration reform is always an uphill battle, even when it's bipartisan.
Yeah, and what can you do here? I mean, we have always been strong proponents of making your voice heard. So reach out to your congressional representatives, reach out to your senators, tell them to support the Dignity Act. It's HR 4393. Explain why it's important to you.
So you might be wondering, given our current political climate, given our current immigration climate, is this really the right time to be pushing for a bill? Is now when I really should be engaging with my representatives and telling them to support this? But here's the deal. Now is actually the perfect time. Congress might not be passing any major legislation until we get through the midterm elections, but this is when those lawmakers and their staff are listening to comments they receive from constituents so that when we get past the midterm elections, they can hit the ground running and know what it is their constituents want.
Yeah, and in the months leading up to the election, they're listening. They're hearing people, and I think there's this kind of consensus, and maybe I'm wrong, of people that support these kinds of things. We want a stronger border, but we also need to modernize our immigration system to not negatively impact the people that are here and trying to do things the right way. So your outreach, whether it's calls, whether it's emails, whether it's showing up to town halls, meeting with your representative, that can be a kicker into the next congressional session, or even in that lame duck session, we see a lot of things get done.
Yeah. So don't wait. You can easily find who to reach out to. You just Google "find my representatives." It'll take you to a little form where you enter your zip code and then maybe your street address, and it will tell you who your congressman is and who your senators are. You can go straight to their website. They all usually have a "Contact Us" button with a form that you can fill out to state what you want to state about supporting this bill. Or you can send an email, you can mail them letters, you can call, go to one of their town halls. But actually getting off the couch and doing something, making your voice heard, is going to be the most important part.
And talk to your employers too. If you're, a high skilled immigrant or this is something that you're interested in, employers, I think, carry a lot of voice. The business community is something representatives listen to, and whether they're facing uncertainty with their workforce or H-1B scrutiny, uncertainty with the lottery, the backlogs and the impact that it has on them, or just how they want to help their employees, this is something that they can help advocate for too as an employer.
And of course, you can share this episode so that your friends, your family, students, anybody, companies will take notice and hopefully start reaching out. And that's how we build momentum, and that's how policy change begins.
Yeah, so just to kind of summarize, the Dignity Act of 2025 might not be perfect, but it's pretty balanced, it's thoughtful, it's trying to resolve some of the issues that we have with the immigration system as it is today, and I think certainly a good step forward for a proposal versus what we've seen in recent years.
Yeah, it addresses border security, yes, but it also offers fairness, clarity, opportunity for people to contribute to the economy, contribute to our communities, and overall the melting pot that is supposed to be America.
Yeah, and we're going to keep an eye on this bill and see how it develops. And if it moves forward, we'll break down the twists, turns, and roller coaster that is the bill system in Congress.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in. If you found this helpful, please don't forget to subscribe. We're on Spotify, Apple, Podcasts, YouTube. Leave a review, leave a comment letting us know if there's any topics you want to talk about. And most importantly, share it with your community so that we can start making some progress on getting this Dignity Act passed.
Thanks for joining in.